All right, welcome to another episode of A Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Maxted, and today we have David Owasi, founder of Outreach Genesis. And David, thanks so much for jumping on. We've met a lot of times, more times than I can
Yeah,
count, and we've always kind of been bumping into each other at stuff locally in Winnipeg. And I love following your journey on social media. I think I'm, one of the top 10 folks that like some of your stuff on the
you,
daily
you
there.
you
So
actually are.
yeah. So I was
Appreciate the
excited to get you
support.
on the podcast to chat more about because we've talked a little bit behind the scenes about some other businesses that I've done and about um, your I'll call it like service, but like product service, however we want to word it today. And I don't think enough people know about, and we were just talking about it before the show too, about the use of AI and actually how frequently we use it within my company doing marketing and podcasts with it helping speed up processes. And I just think it's important that we have, more conversation around it and people get more comfortable with it because it's happened a couple times on like my kind of like marketing, like I said, and podcast uh, company and stuff where people are kind of like, I don't know about this.
Mhm.
And I think it's just such a useful tool. And you take it to a whole new level. I feel like I'm like baseline on this stuff, very basic. And so I'm excited to see, the stuff that we were just chatting about before. And we'll share a screen in a bit. But Dave, why don't you tell a listener a little bit about how this got started for you? Because you have an interesting story. It doesn't just start with AI. Well, for me, and then the story that I've heard, it started off with the painting side of things. I don't know how far back and specific you want to get, but it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, it's a pleasure, Stephen, to be on the show, and I've been following all the episodes. And you do interview quite a few of people we mutually know, so it's cool. It's cool to be
Yeah.
here. So I'm Nigerian born, Canadian, and I started out my business journey, like you mentioned, at university, age 19. Painting houses. It was fantastic business to have here in Winnipeg. It gets super cold all the time. So it means that houses are always in need of a paint job, and it was just a nice business. It was tough to get started. I remember knocking on doors literally to get my first piece of business, and then we got them,
Right.
and I built a team. And then I studied computer science as well, so I did software engineering and wrote software. But my real true passion lied really in marketing and business. And what I've done today is kind of like my journey has evolved, where I've tried my best to leverage all of the technology and the real world expertise I've had in running businesses, doing marketing, like old fashioned marketing, and also my interest in software, combine all of those to build very unique solutions. So at our company, there's sort of like two main pillar of what we do when it comes to marketing. The first thing is personalization, and I will share some like fun tools of build that you can actually try out. So personalization means how can we find everything about you available on the internet and use that to create a personalized intro automatically at scale. And then the second
Cool.
piece is, targeting. How do we make sure that we're even talking to the right person in the first place who is interested in our offer? I can personalize all day long, but if it's going to the wrong person, then that's not going to do anything. So we've actually built the second pillar by gathering over 300 million B2B, B2C records. We've been able to get, and there's a whole bunch of other technology I'll share later on that allows us to like get right in the phones of the individuals who are my ideal prospect, follow them around the internet, not in a creepy way, but basically it would be like on, I don't know if you had an experience where you see the same ad following you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We can do
Totally.
that at that level of precision. And then once someone engages or say, yeah, you know what, I'm interested by going to your website or taking some sort of
Right.
action, we can then personalize our outreach to them. So high level, that's kind of what I do now, Outreach Genius, and that's going to be my journey. And I live and breathe this stuff. Like I'm so passionate. It's so much fun for me. It's like I'm playing because,
Yeah.
every day I wake up, it's like it's so much fun to do with AI, but more importantly, to make it useful to solve real life, real world problems. And that's what I'm very excited about.
100%. And you know what? It's so funny you say that though, but I feel the same way when I'm talking literally about like podcasts because now we're helping other folks do that journey. And I just get so
Mhm.
passionate about seeing, I guess it's a different like part of marketing, right? But like, and that gets a little bit confusing for people too. Like, oh, marketing, what does that mean and stuff, right? But like you telling the story from your mouth is in my opinion, for like the broad scale stuff is like the best version of sharing your story. Because everything else is just trying to tell it. You're actually just like telling it with a podcast nowadays.
Mhm.
So, and Exhibit A, us being on here now, but it's so cool to see how passionate you get about your art, we'll call it, or so the science behind what you're doing with AI. And it's exactly right. I mean, a lot of business owners are looking for targeting there and they're spending money on paid ads, either, like on Meta, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever else that they're going, or X, or other means of hard copy stuff, is it getting to the right hands ultimately is always the question, and it's sometimes hard to gauge um, based on volume alone. I know it's something that's tough in Winnipeg too, right? If we were looking specifically there, because there's not always the volume to target in certain areas to know if it was good or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you're just kind of like homing in, finding those right people, connecting those situations there, which is perfect for a lot of
Absolutely.
people, right? So
It
yeah,
definitely is. So we built an AI called Adam, and I love naming AIs. It's so much fun to name them. We have two AI systems. One is called Adam, the other one is called Solomon because it knows a lot. But for the Adam system, what it does is if it were to know about you, so I used to be like a sales rep, right?
yeah,
I'm not sure if you've done. I mean, every business owner is kind of you have to do sales. Like you just have to do sales. But one of the things when I go into sales calls is I would like typically look up the prospect. I would look up their LinkedIn, look at their websites, any social media stuff I can reference, and you do that to be very prepared. I can say, hey John, I really love what you said on, for example, this podcast where you talked about your tool in
right,
whatever way. And that makes you feel what makes the prospect or the person you're speaking to feel like you've actually done some work and getting to know them. And of course, you can also
totally.
modify your messaging. So the way we
Yep,
build that at scale with AI is we basically sort of mirrored what a real salesperson would do. So we go to LinkedIn first, we find out what we know to be true about them on LinkedIn. And then once we find that information, we then use we basically take all of the pictures, the work history, all of that fun information about that person, right? That's what we know to be true. And then the second thing we then do is we go out into jungle of the internet and we find all the information about people who are named Stephen Maxted, for example. Now there's a good chance there's other people named who share the same name. But then, of course,
right,
you're a podcaster, so there will be videos of you, there will be all these images of you, there will be all this news content about you. So what we then do is we then extract all of those information from the web, anything you'll find on the web. But because there's so many duplicates, we will do a comparison. If this article has a picture of you, we will say, does the
right,
picture on this article, is that Max? Is that Steven? And then we compare that to what we know to be true about you from your LinkedIn profile. And then we compare that. And if it's
right,
a match, then we say, yes, this article is when we're talking about you. And then we'll do the same thing. If there's no picture, we look at the whole context of the website information and we do some
right.
context matching. And then we then have a confidence score. And that confidence score is what allows us to say, yes, there is
Cool.
a good likelihood that this person is a match. And then we take all of that information and we then create like a personalized, what I call know your prospect scorecard. So I'll actually show you the one I made for you.
For sure.
And then you can see how it works. So actually, there's this one here. For some reason, it didn't bring up your image, but normally it would bring up images. But look at that.
Right.
So it says, leader in startups, marketing, and digital technology. Stephen is a working leader focused on helping new businesses grow through marketing, social media, and podcasts. So we found out that you're working on podcasts, and we have personality type, DISC, MBTI, Enneagram, and there's a summary of your personality as well. You're a visionary and strategic thinker with a clear focus on innovation and growth. And then
Holy.
what do they do? Steven's involved in marketing, so podcasting, it kind of highlights that. You're a hard worker with a track record, again, highlights
Yeah.
podcast. And then it talks about your interests, and then it provides some icebreakers. So your leadership in establishing successful startups is commendable. Your contribution to social marketing space is, especially in social media, has been set high. Your insight of podcasts are good. So it gives you all of that information. And then, and that cool thing is your offer summary. So you can actually say, hey, here's my
Oh,
offer. How likely is my offer going to be a fit for them? And
no
then it
kidding.
gives that summary. And then it says, for example, I use Outreach Genius' offer. Market is a strong fit for Outreach Genius because of your background. Your products focus on using AI for personalized outreach aligns with Steven's interest and professional activities, so 85%. And then some
Huh.
commission starters. So and then
No way.
you can share this with anyone, and of course you just go to our website and you can create all of that for yourself. But if you're curious what's going on in the background, how does this actually work? So let me give you a sneak peek.
And David, I just gotta say that is like so cool, and that is like such a fit. I can't remember the exact same,
Mm-hmm.
some of the other dialogue that we had before. I don't know if we went into that much detail, and just like anything, things
Mm-hmm.
move quick. So if you've made changes on here, it probably
Oh,
looks a lot different. Oh,
yeah, it has evolved. It has evolved significantly since we last spoke. But
yeah,
I guess,
that's so
yeah,
cool. Do you
yeah.
want me to take it down for a sec?
Wait, let me show you what goes on in the background so you can
For sure.
actually
Yeah, yeah,
see. So let me share my screen. I'm already
yeah.
sharing. So let's go with this one. So what happens on the background is when I put in a LinkedIn profile, I can decide categories. So pages, news, videos, images, podcasts, awards, fundraise. These are the areas I want to search about you about for you about. And then
Okay.
what I do is the result comes out. It looks at each of the pages and the results from the internet. For example, this one is my own website, and it says,
Nice.
"Yeah, this is 100% confidence. Likely, it's me." And then it looks like another podcast that I did with someone else, and it gave it a score of 66%. And that podcast, obviously, if I open it up here, it's an Apple podcast, and that's about me. So it's very much about me.
Nice.
And then where am I now? Okay, so there. And then it does all the same thing, even for like images. So if we go to images, you can see here it says this is yes, that's me with 100% confidence score because that's obviously me. This one here is kind of
Very
about
cool.
me. It's about originals, but it's not really a high score because this is clearly not me. But the context is
Right.
really about me. So it does all of that. So for example, this one is definitely me. So 100% confidence score. You get the idea. So it does all of that at
Yeah, yeah.
scale. And then all of this information is what it then takes to create that personalized outreach sort of scorecard, if you will, that it does at scale. Does that make sense?
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. David, that's
So
really
you can,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you want
Yeah, we can stop
here,
sharing now.
okay, I'll take that down for us. We can chat a little
Yeah.
bit more about it. Wow, what
Yeah.
a so interesting because like from you're kind of like answering a question I think that like kind of you like half-assed there before. My former career was like sales and marketing roles within agriculture space. So it was like, like account management or sales rep or I forget account executive, all those kinds of things. We were targeting farmers, so there was a limited in many of those roles, anyways. And with other roles that I've had, though, in terms of like executive recruitment or other things, we would try to make something exactly like this, except it would take us a couple hours to do because you're searching, you're trying to figure out, like you said to the point, like accuracy wise, like is this even the same person? And often you come across this with different folks if you're trying to add someone just based on name on LinkedIn. I find it happens often though. And there's a guy I just met with online recently. Brandon Johnson is his name.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of Brandon Johnsons. I don't know if there's that many Steven Maxteds out there. Max is not that common of a last name, but in this guy's
Yeah.
case, there's a lot of David Johnsons and or Brandon Johnson,
Brandon
pardon me.
Johnson, yes.
And I was like, I think you got to add me. I'm not even gonna try to scope through. There's too many, man. Like, and there's like probably even overlap in his industry for that one. But a good example of how tech could help you narrow that in right away, find the person you're looking for, give you a little bit of a background. And people like it. I enjoy when someone knows a little bit about, like, I would enjoy that. That's says like you spend time doing homework. Some people I think find stuff like that in general creepy, but we've always been doing stuff like this. It just hasn't been done by with the use of tech, so it was a little slower. And I don't
Hmm.
think enough people said it out loud, like, "Hey, we creeped you before," or like, even for like something like your phone, like Telus, in my case, they have a whole profile on me. Steve called in, added a home security to whatever on this date. We talked about this. Updated plan here, new phone here. All these companies have all those things already in
Hmm.
existence. It's just like
Hmm.
transparency around that. But that's where, you're working with other business owners a lot of the time to help them enhance the experience of their sales strategy, I guess, ultimately, right? It's kind of where you
Absolutely.
come in fit. Yeah.
That's all it boils down to is how do we use this to help you generate more sales ultimately. So these are tools and will help like with the whole strategy, which is where the agency side of my business or the service side, if you will, helps. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
how are you using AI for your podcast? I know you mentioned a few tools there. I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear more.
Yeah. One of the tools that we use is Opus, cutting software, or I call it software, AI tool.
Mm,
We got to the point when we were doing the full length episodes early on, where we'd go back in, we'd cut out shorts, then we'd go in and add captions. I forget the program that we were even using. And I was like, this is time taking. But are you familiar with that program?
no, I'm
Opus
not. No,
yourself? No. So what
no.
it does is you drop you pay for so many hours in the back end of this thing. You grab the full episode, drop it in there, and Jeff, my editing guy, uses it way more than I do. He's way more fluent, and it's one of those things that we just mentioned too. The evolution of it from when we started using it in late summer 23 to now, it's so different. It's not
Mm,
even the same thing. It's gone through like 20 Facebook updates, if you will, right? Like if you looked at the original Facebook versus now, you wouldn't recognize it.
Right.
And it's almost like that now. But what it does is it transcribes the entire episode to the best of its ability off of both of us as speakers. We'll do the same thing right after this episode with it too. Drop it in there, transcribes, and what it does is it tells you what's likely going to hit with the transcription of like keywords that it knows may hit better online. It's not always perfect. It's definitely not. We can adjust it to within the clips to be like if we wanted to. Initially, what we do though is we use it as a way to get the top few rated things out for content on our social platforms, and then I guess it's not really like AI. And this is like you mean both kind of for. I didn't say this out loud, but I'm super happy to share what we do too because if
Of
someone
course.
really wanted to do it, they just have to like learn it and then spend the time doing it anyways. It's not a secret. It's like getting apps. Everyone kind of knows how to do it, eat less, work out more, but not everyone does it, right? So we use another like a few scheduling apps. They're not really AI focused, but that's what helps us, with the ability to run this podcast and other people's podcasts too for speed. Because it's if we spent all that time doing that editing the way that we used to, but we'd probably need 3 more people to do it
Right.
to that
Right.
like level, and then like make sure that the wording is accurate as well. It's already made improvements within that tool to pull out spelling of different words that we commonly use, such as EH and the A. When we started off, it now recognizes us as a when we're dropping that in for the episode. Um, so that's one of the. I'm trying to think what else we use though. Well, I guess ChatGPT in
Right.
general, like I mean, that's like I hope other people are using that more. From my opinion, anyways. Like, and it's not perfect either, though. We use it as a
Right.
way to help write captions for a lot of things, or help us even, a lot of the time in the space, like you're getting creative with people, more like that creative energy thing, and you just get kind of stuck on like, hey, like, what should we do next, or even, I've used a tool like that for writing scripts for here. We're pretty unscripted and a lot of the time I don't use it on here, but ahead of time and doing homework, like the pre-work that no one really sees on these things is,
Yeah.
doing that research and, what would be a suggested question, that would be good. And, we probably will get to a point one day where it does, become more formatted. We try to hit similar cues, but a lot of time we end up having good conversation like this. But I guess that would be like the 2 or 2.5 kind of tools that we use. AI related. I find them very like basic compared to what you just mentioned here. That looks like you're doing a lot more back end stuff there, but in
Certainly.
general, getting exposed to it though is certainly better, I think, and starting to learn it now, because if it does continue to grow, and I don't even know what to call that evolution, but keeps going at the pace like you're saying from like last time, this is new, and what we're seeing on the AI tools that we're using now. And if we were to jump in now and see where it's at, we'd be like, whoa, but that's the adoption curve though, right? Early adopters, and then the laggers on the other end of things are
Certainly.
hopefully they jump in sooner though.
So maybe I will share like that's really cool. Thanks for sharing. I will have to check out that tool, the one you
Yeah,
recommended.
for sure.
I'll check it out. That
100%.
being said, I'll share some like a hack with you. So
Yeah.
if you are someone who likes to tinker, you like to like get your hands a little dirty with some of this technology, or you're like extremely curious and very interested, which you should be, by the way. If you're not, then
Yep.
you're missing out on like a huge leverage point. So if you are
Totally.
curious and you want to understand how to leverage AI into your business, but you don't have the technical know-how to like, write code, or to like, combine all these like complex things, totally fine, by the way. There are lots of middle intermediate ways you can still play big without needing all those expertise. And the big answer here is something called My GPT apps. Are you familiar with My GPT apps?
No, I
Okay.
don't think so.
So
No.
OpenAI released a product called MyGPT apps. So MyGPT apps, think of them
Oh,
as mini ChatGPTs. Basically, it's
okay.
ChatGPT that you can train on your own data, which could be like a PDF, like very simple. So
Very
for
cool.
example, you could say, here's all of our onboarding process at our company. And you upload that PDF into MyGPT app, which you can create. It's very simple to create, just like basically like prompting. You don't have to write any code at all. You just like type in, hey, create MyGPT app, and it'll say, what do you want your MyGPT app to do for you? And you'll
Right.
tell it what you want it to do for you, and say, do you have anything you want to upload? And you'll be able to like upload your PDF, and it will understand all of that PDF, and then it will, when you ask it questions, it will answer based on the knowledge you've given it. But that is like very basic. The next level is then to use and leverage that with Zapier integration for thousands of other apps. So, for example, like you're familiar with Zapier, right? Zapier?
Um, Not sure.
No? Okay, so Zapier
No.
is a platform that allows you to connect different softwares across the internet. So, for example,
Okay.
if I have my HubSpot and I want my HubSpot to speak to like my Go High Level, I don't know if you my Go High
Yep.
Level,
100%.
maybe that would not make sense. Or you want like, when Facebook links come in, it does something and it does something like you have all this automation. For example, the way I would use it in my company is when a lead comes in from one of our marketing and they book a call, it automatically goes
Yep.
to my Go High Level, and then my Go High Level will then push it to my Convert Kit, which is where all of the email sequences are loaded, and then from there it goes onto Slack, which tells my team a new that's coming. Here's all this. So I have like all these workflows to do all this sort of things in my business. Zapier is the one that glues all of them together to make them do whatever I want them to do, right? So
Oh,
Zapier
okay.
is like that
Yeah,
glue.
yeah.
But what we're able to then do is we're able to integrate Zapier into my GPT apps. And I actually created a free tutorial on YouTube showing how I did everything. So you
I
can
saw
go
you
check it
posted
out.
this the other day. I didn't
Yeah.
check it out yet. Now I will definitely go check it out because I just saw this posted. So.
I posted session 2 today, which
Oh,
is
did
like
you?
taking that to a new level. Yeah, so go check it out.
Cool.
And what we
Awesome.
did in that video was I showed how you would like set it up, how you would connect my GPT app you create. You connect it to a Zapier account that you have, and then you can then do what we call actions. So actions are you can use.
Very cool.
There's over 12,000 apps or software, HubSpot, Slack, Trello, like anything you're using. I'm pretty sure
Right.
maybe the software you mentioned is actually on Zapier. Anything that is on
Yeah.
Zapier, and there's like tens of thousands of them, right? You can integrate them
Totally.
into your app. So basically, what we did was we said we named
Yeah.
our GPT app an app to create help us create content, like a content creator guide or help. And you could create it for it to be anything really. And what I did was I created content. I said, help me brainstorm the ideas on my content. It gave me a list of ideas. And then I already installed and set it up, well, integrated this GPT app with Google Docs. And I said, okay, all of these ideas we just created, please load them to a Google Doc for me. And it automatically loaded them to a Google Doc and sent me the link. And then I said, okay, thank you for sending me a link. Can you send this to my Slack channel for my content creators? All from like
Right.
a prompt. Like I'm just typing, send it
And
to my
that's
chat. And it does
right.
that.
That's already
Yeah.
done.
So, and those are just like the 2 apps I integrated. Of course, if I wanted to do something with my CRM, if I wanted to do something with like sending emails to other people, reminders, look at my calendar, add a new event, like you can do anything you want, all from prompt, from the comfort of like of ChatGPT. So that's like a whole new way of unlocking AI for your business without any sort of technical expertise at all. You're already using these apps anyways to like run your business for whatever thing you're
Right.
doing. Just integrate them into my GPT app, create a use case for the GPT app, and you can even like talk to multiple GPT app. Okay, I won't get too complex, but there's so many things you can do
It's
with
like you
my
read my
GPT
mind
apps.
right there. I was like, I feel like I'm kind of still following along, but you might lose me right away. But someone else listening might. It's tough though too, right? Because if someone has like zero experience in the space, but they want to learn more about it, ultimately that's why you end up getting hired in this situation.
Yeah. Well, I created a free YouTube tutorial that shows step by step how I did it all in real time. So you can go
Right.
follow it. Like all the examples are there, and you just need to like I showed how to do everything basically. So go check it out. But that's like
Yeah.
what I love tinkering and playing with. So for someone who is not technical and
Yeah.
doesn't have the bandwidth to try and learn more technical stuff, which is totally fine, and that's what most people are. This is a
Yeah.
great way to like use no code, drag and drop things to create AI apps for you.
Totally. Well, it sounds like it'd be like, yeah, perfect thing for me to explore next kind of thing, like on where we're going, because we always like to, yeah, try different things out. So I appreciate you dropping that and dropping that on here for other, but people definitely should check out your channel if you're putting out, free info like that on is it on a YouTube channel. What's it called?
Yeah, so YouTube, you can find me at David Owasi on YouTube.
Okay.
So it's a
Yeah.
free video out there that's like, it's a kind of, I'm doing a series where I'm trying to like use this My GPT app to create like real life things that I would typically use in my business or anyone would use in their
Totally.
business. So
Awesome.
it's free to consume. And of course on Instagram, I have mostly like there's a shorts of them on Instagram, which I will post in the next couple of days as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Sick. That's awesome. No, that's a great
And
share.
it is a great show, thank you. In terms of like the more advanced strategies, so this is like
Yeah.
more for like multi like corporations that we work with or work with some very big companies. So they
Yeah.
are spending like tens of thousands of dollars in ad spend every month, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
they're not getting the ROI they want, or they're not happy with the ROI they want. So what we do for them, and this is only for a selected types of client, is we have a robust database of over 300 million B2B and B2C records. So we have everything from name of these individuals to phone numbers, email addresses, everything. So we're part of like a data cooperative where we get the very best data you can find anywhere. And we pay a lot of money for it, by the way. But it's a lot of money. But
Yep.
the curious thing we have is something called mobile ads ID. So like I explained earlier on, every phone has a mobile ads ID, right? And if I
Yep.
know your mobile ads ID, I can put my ads in front of you anywhere you're on the internet. So when you go to like ESPN or you go to,
Right.
any website really, you see all those little ad spots all over it.
Yeah,
So
they're cruising top, bottom, yeah.
marketers like me, we bid to put our clients' ads on those spaces.
Hmm.
So, for example, we can do that on those ad spaces. We can do that on apps that you're downloading, meditation apps,
Right.
whatever. Or you can do that on like the actual traditional websites as well, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, looking at YouTube. So what we do is we use our robust data set to build them like an ideal list, to like 100,000 people who are perfect ideal clients who live in this location, who have this
Right.
income level. We have all that data. We even have like what company they work with, how much already the company has, and then we build that perfect data set, or we enrich what they currently have in their database already. And then what we then do is we launch this mobile ads ID, and it goes right in front of the on the phones of the individual that is on that list using the mobile ads ID. So whenever they go on the internet, they could be
Right.
downloading an app and listening, or they are on ESPN looking at the latest highlights, or they are on Facebook. So it doesn't matter where they are. The mobile ads ID allows like kind of create an omnipresence where everywhere they go, they keep seeing the brand. Like, why am I keep seeing this brand? And then
Totally.
they're like, okay, fine, I'll click on it. And because it often will resonate, because there's like creatives and messaging talking about some dream outcome they want, you'll be like, oh sure, I want that, but why do I keep seeing you everywhere I go on the internet? And then they click on the ads, and we
Right.
have a little product called Revealer Genius. It's like a small JavaScript code that we install on the website of our clients. And what
Okay.
this code does is allows us to identify the identity of the person visiting the website without them opting in.
Hmm.
So we can find out the names, and that kind of goes back to our 300 million data set that we have. We can find
Yeah.
name, email address, and we can attribute and say from our campaign, this person came from the campaign that we launched. So that's a direct attribution. And then from
That's
there,
awesome.
they can obviously convert and take the action the client wants. Or if they don't take any action, we can like create a different campaign to retarget for the people who actually came to the website. So they get a second level of campaign. And we're now showing them testimonials, why they should actually move forward with the action we want them to take, just trying to give them everything we can incentivize them to do to move forward. And then for the last set of people, if they're still not taking action, that is where the LinkedIn and email automation outreach would then come in play. And it's like the last Hail Mary. It's like, okay, we're gonna reach out to you directly. But remember, we had the Adam AI that actually like scripts everything on the internet, find that information to like personalize our outreach. And that's like the last stand, if you will, of trying to
To
outreach
try
to
to
them
get that person to
to
come
take action.
back.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the more advanced strategy for like much bigger companies that already spend a lot in ad spend already, and they're looking like how can we get better ROI. Now the question is, well, you can do this with Facebook, you can do this with Instagram, you can do this with TikTok already. Yes, you can, and the algorithms are really powerful. But the problem is that you have to spend so much for the algorithm to eventually learn who your ideal audience is and then start to put your ads in front of them. And then anytime you change your campaign or you try something new, then it's learning all over again. And you're basically wasting a lot of money for Facebook to learn who your ideal clients are. And if you have the money to waste, that's all good and fine. But most people, they want to get as much ROI from every dollar as much as possible. And if you can eliminate the need to like have pay for testing, and like right from day one, your ads is going in front of the exact individual who you believe should be buying or should be hearing about your product because you know them already. And that's why we only do this
Totally.
with like clients who are actually established and know who their ideal clients are already. Then you get much better ROI right away from day one. And that's a differentiating factor.
No, that totally makes sense. And even from like what you said there too, it's kind of like a funny thing to say to someone when you're talking about like the marketing strategy though too. But I'm like, hey, if you could do everything and you have the budget for it, you should, because
Sure.
then we can learn. If they don't already have that established baseline, right? Like, I mean, realistically, if you have it, great, try everything. We'll evaluate it as best we can in different things. And the suggestions often not to do like printed stuff. And I spent a little bit of time managing a real estate brokerage for a minute, and a lot of folks did right away want to go with slap their face on a bus bench. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. It's good once you're established, and you can like kind of control an area more, because if you have that in the budget and you're doing, you're just that light reminder on top of the 7 other things you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Great, but you probably shouldn't start with that or like lead with that one, right? Because it's not gonna drive the business. But it's the yeah, that site of success sometimes gets lost at different levels, right? Like what's
Mhm.
really actually effective for the marketing. But and it definitely makes sense why too you'd be targeting like a different level of client with established business like that, right? Their pain points different. They're trying to manage a budget and like correct maybe that spent work for a bit, right? To draw people in, but now you gotta narrow that in and get a little bit sharper at it. So that's
Certainly.
awesome. Yeah.
It is a lot of fun being in the world of AI and having all of these tools at our disposal. And of course, we have so many new tools that are coming out. Everything from like, I'm very excited about to see how video is going to change with AI. And of course, OpenAI released their most recent tool on videos. I don't know if you caught that announcement.
No, I didn't yet. No.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty amazing what you can generate from just a prompt to generate a really high quality, realistically looking video. It's pretty incredible, and that's something that we can absolutely yes. So
We're back. So yeah, AI video. So what do you need to make that happen? It's just going to create video for you?
yeah, so you can basically text prompts to video, so text to email video generation. So there are other platforms that have done something similar, but the problem is that the quality was just not as good. It didn't look realistic. It didn't look cinematic at all. But this one's
Right.
a really, really, really high quality, like Ultra HD from OpenAI. So it's very exciting. They just released it. It's like they've not rolled it out quite as much yet. So I'm very curious to dive into that, see how we can leverage videos into what we're doing at Outreach Genius for outreach.
Yeah, no kidding. Because yeah, have you ever? Oh, I mean, I've seen this as like a strategy before too. Like, because for a little bit, I mean, I've seen it used where people literally like send a video, be like, "Hey," and I'll use it like they'll record themselves. "Hey, David, like just like check your profile or whatever," as like a DM to be like, "Hey, if you want to jump on a call or whatever." So it's like very different. You're like, "Why did someone just send me a video?" In that
It,
kind of aspect, right? Makes it a
yeah,
little bit more personal. So
there are a few tools that I've worked with that have done that in the past. One was called Scent Potion. I think it was what it was called, Scent
okay,
Potion. And then that one's Synthesia, I think that did that. No, they were pretty good. I just found them back when I was working on them. For some reason, they just didn't work quite as well as I would have loved. But I'm sure they've made significant improvement. But I took a
right,
different course. I decided to put a pause on video because video is very tricky to work with at scale.
yep,
So I focus mostly on text right now, which has been working really well for us.
totally. Well, it's even to like your point, like people like exploring new AI things. You're
Mhm.
still looking at other options and making decisions like, yeah, that's for us, or no, this one's not right now, but maybe in the future, right?
Always,
Or
absolutely. We are my team. We're always relentless. So, for example, one of the futuristic things that I am looking to work on in the coming months is result-based search. So, basically, what I mean by that is because we have this huge database of hundreds of millions of records, we want to like find a way for an AI to absorb that information, so that when you go search a database for your list, whatever that list is, you tell us the outcome of what you want versus what you actually want. So, for example, you say, "Hey, this is my business. I help other businesses do podcasts, right? And
yeah,
we're growing their business." But when you go to our list, instead of saying, "Give me businesses who are living in New York, who are blah blah blah," you can just say, "Hey, this is what I do. Find me companies that would actually need my service based on their activity on social media to ensure that they're actually doing something on social media. They're like
right,
revenue levels, their location, it looks at all that criteria and say, here are the best, 10,000 people right now in North America who would be the perfect fit. So that way it kind of changes the game around how you do search. So it's more outcome focused versus like here is like the firmographic or the actual details of who I'm looking for. And then the AI becomes smarter over time as you actually launch the campaigns and it finds out who are the people who responds the best with this result, and then it uses that information to then adjust the next wave of recommendation it gives you based on what it's learning in real time from real campaigns. So that's like a new way of kind of like using that data we have. So it's fun.
dang, that is awesome. Did much change for you guys like on your end of business with that like recent like email um adjustment that
Yes.
just happened on the back end there?
It did. So we
Yeah.
initially, so for anyone who's not quite sure, Google rolled out a new update where you must have a 30% spam policy. Basically, you can have over 30% of people marking your email as spam. So now there are some immediate things you can do, like your DKIM records, like just like getting all of those registered properly. But beyond that, if you're sending massive emails at scale, this is going to affect you. So initially we
Yeah.
were trying to like find ways to go around it and like how do we figure it out? But then we're like, no, we're thinking about this wrong. The focus should be less outbound emails. That should be the focus. You shouldn't be trying to send more out. There should be only send emails to the people who are the most interested in your offer. So that way it's not all about
Right.
volume, it's all about quality anyways. And that is
Right.
kind of where we have like we've been thinking about this problem for a while anyways. So that's why we had like all of the sophisticated ways of let's use advertising that people are used to every day, ads in front of them everywhere they go on their web. Let's just use that to advantage. But instead
Yeah.
of like giving Google all of that budget, we say, no, Google, here are the specific individuals I want you to put my ads in front on YouTube, on Facebook. You can build custom audiences by using our mobile ads ID. And that allows you to eliminate the waste, but more importantly, find people who have showed intent and coming to your website. And only those people are you going to be then sending and putting to email campaigns versus like, let's email all of them, which might not be as realistic anymore. So
Right.
that has been our solution to that problem.
No, well, I mean, I think it makes sense. I've noticed, I don't know if it's like a perfect thing, but I've noticed less things that I was signed up for now, less emails coming in from
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they are getting filtered right because on the back end of there you have like primary, social, and then other. I don't even know what else the other thing is for the little cat on the ends at back end of your Gmail account. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see like I mean the other things over time I'm sure too that kind of help rein in that mass volume game that used to exist.
Yes.
So like yeah, it's definitely nice to be more focused on what you guys are offering for that focus approach within that space. Not to be too much of a push that way. I'm just stating the obvious here from what I heard us talk about today, though. Like it
No,
just
no.
definitely makes a lot of sense for someone to be looking at it under that lens. And even for, I mean, calling it being like a little bit more legitimate or genuine in your reach out in general, because that's really what they're hopefully trying to, I think, insinuate here is that like they want it to be like real. Why you're reaching out is for business, not just because you can go, click send and
Yeah.
10,000 emails go out in different pockets of 49 or 50 or whatever they, it used to be there for mass emails. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
is quite exciting, absolutely. And we have to change our habits, like you mentioned. You can't just rely on the old way of mass emailing anymore.
yeah,
Um, uh, so business has to be creative and open minded. And one of the things that our philosophy at Outreach Genius is we have sort of three philosophies and three sort of the things that guide us. And the first one is we're all about imagination, thinking outside the box. How can we ensure that we are leveraging things that no one else is thinking about, or things that people are thinking about but overlook? Um, so we're all about imagination. And the second thing is leverage. How do we find the best way of combining all these technologies? So, for example, when we said we did that image recognition system, like we didn't build that from scratch. It was already built already by Amazon. And all we just
right.
did was to say, okay, how do we call that amazing robust software they've built already? Just like code calls, like call it, and we give the images and we put it to work, we give it our criteria, and then we actually use Llama. So Llama is like Facebook's
Yeah, yeah,
language model. We use
totally.
Llama for our text comparison algorithm because OpenAI was just too big for it. It could do the job, but it's like trying to use a space rocket to deliver food across the city. It's like, yeah, it will work, but you don't really need to go to space to deliver food. So we've been able to like combine all of these technologies, and that's allowed us to leverage them to reach our goal. And the last one is the creation. We just build stuff, like build things, ship it out. It's not perfect sometimes.
Yep.
We get some feedback, get clients tell us how it works. For example, the scorecard I just showed you,
Yeah.
that's just one of the most recent software we've built. And
Well,
it's
yeah,
already live. Like anyone can go to our website. You can get 2 free per day, so you don't have to pay anything for it. Just put in all the information, and we send a scorecard right to your email. You use it for free. If you want more, you pay for it. But if you just want 2 per day, you get it for free. So we love and enjoy building and adding value, and it's been awesome so far.
that's awesome. That's great. And it's cool that you offer that as like a way for people to like kind of test the waters, frankly. It's something that I've noticed in some of the tech that we use where they have, whether it be like the 14-day trial or, this many hours if it's like a time thing of test this thing out. And it's not because we don't think it's going to work. You just kind of want to like test it out before, committing to it, because sometimes the price tag on some of the things is a lot. And if it works great, then there's no question about it. It's a good investment in the company to use tools like that. But the skepticism ahead of time, if you've never used something like that before. So that's really great that you offer that to folks to use, because I could see that as being like a great hack. If I was still doing like sales roles specifically, I'd probably be going on there
Yeah.
daily to use the couple, or trying to figure a way to integrate you into part of the team there, right? So
Certainly,
yeah,
yeah. It's and if you're doing interviews like this, you can absolutely still use it for interviews. If you're recruiting, you're trying to like recruit
yeah,
somebody, you have that intelligence to get you started, conversation starters,
totally.
icebreakers, high level summary, even personality type. So it is a great tool for literally anyone who is meeting our business and want to do business with them. It's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I noticed that you had in there, and I think it's become a lot more like common to have, or maybe it's just scraped because I posted some of that stuff out there about like personality types. Is that something that you guys have in there for everyone, or is that just information that I grabbed from me in my case there?
Yeah, so it looks like all the publicly available information, your LinkedIn, your post, and it tries to make an educated
Right.
guess of what personality
Fun
it
search
could
stuff.
be. Yeah, so it
Cool.
uses that
Great.
publicly available information. Yeah.
Neat. Yeah, because I think I just looked at that. I think it was the ENFJ. I know that I kind of, when I've taken that test at different times, the 16 personality types, and there's
Yes.
other tests, like I was like, that one right there, even though we looked through it quickly, like that one's fairly accurate, and it's such a good hack, so to say, in my opinion, like to know that about someone. It's not, you don't have them all figured out. I know that I've gone to like courses before within companies and people are like, that's weird.
Hmm.
I'm like, this is actually like, initially I was like, oh, that's a little strange, but I really enjoy it because not only did you get to learn more about yourself, but you did learn about how others react or act. And I work with some companies now that they literally make it like standard. You take, I'm gonna forget the name of this
Disc,
particular test. I know that there's DISC. There's another one though. Starts with,
enneagrams.
starts with a
Hmm.
K or something like that, I think.
Okay.
Um, and it's like a whole system, so it'll like give you like little like the number rating on there out of 10,
Mm.
I think is what it is. I'll
Mm.
find it later now that I brought it up out of nowhere. Anyways, they use this whole thing, and it's very telling, because if something ever goes wrong in this particular business, any operations of the day, they can almost certainly go back, and they kind of like religiously go back and check the testing to be like, okay, why did that fall apart, or what didn't go smoothly about this? And more often than not, it's literally related to their like how they work, and they're
Mm.
like, oh, we didn't, tell that person this, or this wasn't part of their routine. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Didn't change the outcome of the day, but they can go back and be like, okay, like that person's like this, and it just helps with the flow, right,
Mm.
overall of getting to know someone. So I think that's a really cool tool, and I hope that more people start to use that as they're approaching folks, because the other part of that too is like a big thing within company culture is like different personalities do not really jive. I mean, it's good to have the variety in terms of like if you're approaching clients, perhaps. That's just one example, right?
Mm.
Because other people take to different people and different personalities, which is great to have the variety, but sometimes you can know ahead that there might be a little bit of like an issue or something, possibly, and not to be like a knock, but could be a thing.
I totally agree. I am a bit of a nerd when it comes to personality types. I obsess with them. I've read volumes and volumes of books about them. But one of the ones, one of an example of how understanding someone's personality would make a lot of sense is, say, for example, the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs personality type. So it has like
Yeah,
4 letters. You're an introvert or extrovert. You're an intuitive or a sensor. You're a feeler, a thinker, or you're a perceiver, a judger. Now, if you
yeah,
know those combinations of letters, if someone is introverted, you can maybe relate to their introversion, and they're not like
right,
super, chatty, which, that's a stereotypical talking about people who are introverted. It doesn't mean that they don't have energy, but you can understand that. Where I find to be particularly useful are whether they're intuitives or sensors. So
yeah,
intuitives usually are more like, give me the sort of the big idea, give me the sort of the feel for it, or something that is like intuitive or big picture. Versus the sensors, they prefer more detail, more like, give me the actual reality of it. So it's like, what are the
totally.
numbers, what are the stats? and then you can communicate to them very differently. And if you
Yeah.
are a thinker, so on the third spectrum, so thinker or feeler, thinker is more logic focused. Give me the logic of it, the logic of your argument. And
Yeah.
whereas a feeler is more like give me the emotions of the argument. Now, technically, people are like somewhere on the scale. It's not like a hard, one or the other binary. It's like there's somewhere on
Yeah.
that
It's
sliding
kind of,
scale. Yeah,
yeah, it can be a little like mobile because some people can be a little bit of both on that, right? Like
correct.
to different degrees. So
And
yeah,
then they kind of like slightly, lean one way or the other. So once you understand that, you don't, like I said, you don't have them all figured out, but you have like, okay, maybe I will try and position the products with more like numbers and data. And if they're like really, really like liking it and asking like follow-up questions, I'll just lean harder into it in
yeah,
my pitch. Or someone is like more about the emotions, like this is how this will impact your team. So you can really like
right.
mirror your or slightly adjust your approach or outreach based on the personality types you exist. So that's why those are very powerful.
No, 100%. I mean, you know what? And it's interesting you just brought up reading books. I noticed there's a shelf behind you. I don't mean to put you on the spot on this one,
Oh yeah.
but I do know that you like to read. But is there any recent reads that we're talking more AI? Now we're gonna kind of go old school for learning things. But what's a recent favorite that you've dove
Yeah,
into
so
history?
I'm a huge fan of Robert Greene's work. I don't know if you know Robert Greene, but he's written a couple of books on strategy. 48 Laws of Power is my most favorite one. He talks about
Oh, great.
48 immutable laws of power, just help you understand how humans work. And
Yeah,
then he also wrote another book, The Laws of Human Nature, understand how human nature works. So those are like my all-time favorite. In terms of other books, I would say, I mean, I do have quite a bit. I love history's books, because
yeah,
the best way to learn about how to do anything great is to
totally.
read about
Go
people who've
back.
done great.
Yeah,
Right now, I'm obsessed with Alexander the Great and his conquest and all of his battles. I'm like, reading through all these battles, understanding all the strategy. And one thing, for example, I've been very inspired with Alexander the Great is his urgency and his quickness of decisions. So he makes
mm.
decisions with very quick precision, and of course, he doesn't make all the right decisions all the time,
But
but
he makes
that
it.
yeah, and that's why
Yeah,
fortune favors the brave. People who like just go and just go, they just execute. They don't like think too much about it. Of course, sometimes you have to do that, but most times you just have to execute, see what happened, adjust, calibrate, move on. Like just make a
totally.
decision and learn from it and move forward. So
Yeah,
I've really learned that a lot from him. But I love reading about history's entrepreneur. Like I'm currently reading about Elon Musk from Isaac Walterson's biography of Elon.
cool.
Elon is a very polarizing figure, but there's quite
Yeah.
a lot to learn from him and all the companies he's built. So lots of inspiration there. So those are some of the books I've been reading lately.
Oh, that's awesome. And I literally have the 48.
Laws of
Is
Power.
it Laws of Power? I can't remember the title. It's sitting on my bookshelf literally in the next
Oh
room.
yeah,
I just
I
pulled it out the other day. I saw it and I was like, oh, I gotta dive in here again. Sometimes I recycle. Like I'll go back and read again because you forget, or at the time you're thinking a certain way about things, and it never,
yeah,
go that.
it's
It's not
certainly
that
one
weird.
to it's certainly one to revisit over and over again. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, but no, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed having this conversation and chatting all of
yeah,
that stuff with you.
yeah. This is awesome, David. And David, what's the best way? It's ironic that you're the outreach guy here, but what's the best way to get a hold of you? You mentioned the website. I know that you have a list of social medias. Do you want to give the listener um, yeah, list that? Obviously, we have the website, I believe, right in here
Yes. So
on the screen.
outreachgenius.ai, and then you can find me on Instagram. I'm very, very active on Instagram. If you want to DM me, Instagram is where you'll most likely be able to reach me personally. My team manages most of my other social media. They actually are the one who responds. But Instagram, I do that myself.
Awesome.
LinkedIn, I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn, Facebook as well. On TikTok, all at David Owasi. You can find me on there. And then
Awesome.
YouTube is where I like do like my long stuff where I really go
Yeah.
into like the real tactics of things I do and show
Yeah.
them. So that's kind of you can go on LinkedIn on YouTube as well.
Awesome. That's a great recap. And we'll have that in the write up here for a listener if you haven't already seen that on our YouTube channel if you're listening on there or on our website. So we'll have that all posted there. And just thanks so much for making time today, David. I know you're a busy guy, even though you're using all these AI tools to
Ah,
speed up
yes.
processes. So we really appreciate it.
A pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed this conversation, Max. Stephen, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, David.
Thanks, buddy. I gotta jump